Hallelujah. Welcome, everybody, to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest-running sales training podcast in the history of podcasts. My name is Bryan Neal.
Bryan said hallelujah because he finally got his audio corrected. It all works now, so that was the hallelujah.
Having a bad studio day here, Bill.
And I'm Bill Caskey, and we're glad you're with us today. Thanks for having me on today, Bryan.
It's not my show. Obviously, looking like I'm standing in front of a...
Hey, I got a funny stuff. I don't know if it's funny. I guess we'll let the audience decide. But, you know, we were celebrating in September, and I think this episode will go out in October, 1st of October. But last month we were celebrating our 17th anniversary of the podcast. And so I went back trying to find, we should have done this in September, trying to find episode 1. Because I wanted to hear how we sounded. I couldn't find that. I couldn't locate that. But I found an episode that we did in October of 16, which might have been episode 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to listen to this and see how different, how bad we were, or how different we were. Interesting thing, we sounded no different. We sounded no different than we did in May. And I'm thinking, we haven't improved one iota from that.
That's how you get to be the longest running. You just don't change anything. For 17 years.
And it really was kind of shocking. I mean, our voices were a little different, but not very. And I just thought either we were okay when we started, or we just are still bad. We still haven't improved at all.
Well, the equipment's improved. That's for sure.
Yeah. So we had some pretty good equipment then. But point is that I thought, well, we should play. If we were really bad, I thought it'd be funny, but that wouldn't be funny.
Wasn't that bad?
Different, no.
Which means this isn't that good.
That's right. One of the two.
All right.
Yeah. So I have another question for you. Okay. You know, you're in the football sphere, and I heard a guy. I'll tell you who it is. Tom Brady. I heard him speak at on a podcast that I listened to quite a bit, and this guy had him on. It was a special event they did in Miami. Patrick Bet-David, I don't know if you know Patrick or who he is, but he has a big podcast, more of a YouTube channel than a podcast, but he had Brady on. And I cannot believe, and whether you like him or not, I know he kind of creates a lot of love in the New England area and hate everywhere else. But when you hear him speak today, he is a really bright guy.
Oh, beyond.
I mean, he commanded the stage. It was impressive. Even Patrick, the host, one time, 5 minutes in, goes, "You've changed, brother. What is with you?" Because his stories were concise and they were clever and it was funny. And I thought, that's not the Tom Brady we knew for many years, because he really wasn't allowed. I mean, he even said, he goes, "Well, we weren't allowed to say much in our press conferences, so we didn't." But, boy, if you want some inspiration on how he has battled being, fifth string all his life, it's a fascinating story, and it really is inspiring. Whether you like him or not, you've got to take some of the emotion out. But have you experienced the same thing with him?
Yeah, but when he was on the field, you see what you see. I mean, there's just no one that works the way he works. Is unbelievable. Yeah. And there's an intensity there that I always wonder, is that level of intensity teachable, or is it God-given? And and it's like, you see people, you hear this all the time in athletics mostly. Sometimes you see it in business, is people play with a chip on their shoulder, a little cliche, but they play with a chip on their shoulder. So they're thinking, you didn't pick me, or out like I was the fifth string. So that's a bad thing to do. There's a certain perfect combination of that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Where you have all this athletic ability and mental and emotional ability, and you have the chip at the same time. Because sometimes the chip on the shoulder can be debilitating, but
that's right. And he even mentioned that. He said, there were 28 teams that passed me over 5 times in the draft. Yeah. And he goes, I'm going to make them pay. And it was kind of a throwaway line, but it was there. It was in the second.
No, it's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt.
And the other thing I thought was interesting about it is how he relied on his team, on not teammates, but his psychological coach, his nutrition coach, his stretching coach. He had a coach in high school to help him get his throwing, motion down. He had a coach at Michigan who helped him with mindset and how to handle the kind of the setbacks and things like that. This guy really relied. He went out and found people who could help him with parts of his game that were deficient. And I feel like you have clients and I have clients who have reached out to us, but that's a rare thing to have somebody who's that good still say, I need help in this area. And I think
Constantly.
that's something that we all need to look at. And I know you've employed coaches, as have I, and they're invaluable. And for any listener who feels like they're not creating the kind of results they want, you need to look into, are there people that you can surround yourself with, paid or unpaid, who can help you?
It's so funny too, because the resistance around that, people say, well, I really don't have the time to do that and invest, or that's a lot of money, or, and they just don't look at, if you look at it that way, you're dead on arrival.
You're dead.
Yeah. You got to see it as the long term. I had a young salesperson that I do coaching for, and I offer my mobile phone number to all my clients, and there's a bunch of them, and not very many people call. You do the same thing, Bill, right? Not many of them call.
Very few.
And our last coaching call, and I called him out at this event I was at the other night. His name's Leo. I think he listens. I go, what are we talking about today? We have 15-minute coaching call. He goes, well, I'm going to be $1 million producer this year, which is really, really good for his second year. He goes, I want to know, what do $10 million producers do and think? What do $10 million producers do and think? What I want to be like them. I said, you already are. He's like, huh? I go, you know what they do? They ask the question that you just asked. Mm-hmm. How do I become a $10 million producer? That's the answer right there. And then you just find your way.
Yeah.
And so
that's good.
That's how Tom Brady is too. That's how a lot of pro athletes, like, how can I get this thing to this, this point, or how can I get my revenue to this? So.
How can I get to the next level?
Yeah.
Whatever that means. And I know we always talk about next level. What the hell does that mean? But we all know, what the next level is. The next level doesn't necessarily mean more income. It might mean the same income with half the hours worked.
There you go. See, that's the thing, right? It could be less. Could be less. How do I turn my life back? I'm unhealthy right now. How do I get,
Yeah. And I think I did an exercise with this group out in Denver. And I said, okay, it was a guided visualization. I said, okay, you've just hired somebody to follow you around for 90 days.
Yeah.
And this person has been with you at dinner and in the boardroom and the bedroom, has been everywhere with you. They've observed your behavior for 90 days. And now you're sitting down with them at the final observation. This is where they're going to share with you what they've seen. And the person's about ready to tell you. And then they've switched the script and they say, what do you think is in this report? And the reason we do it that way is because we know exactly. We don't need somebody to follow us around.
No.
Although if they did, they'd probably see it a little. But we kind of know what would be in that report, because we have instincts and we know where we're off and we know where we're on. And I think that intuition is powerful, but we have to stop sometimes and say, okay, if somebody was following me around for 90 days and really observing my behavior, what would they see? Well, you know what they'd see because you're in it.
Yeah. And I think getting real and objective about what they would see is part of the trick. And the other thing I think people do is they either defend it. Oh, well, I do that because I have to, or do this because of this. And I think you need to accept it. Just own the fact that they would see me taking a lot of breaks. They would see me with call resistance. They would see me clam up in a sales call because I feel like I'm being too pushy, whatever. And you have to say they would also see some really good things. They would see me leveraging my LinkedIn stuff or doing, I think sometimes we say what we see, our brains go to what's the negative. What are they
that's great.
Versus saying there's some really good things that I see here. And there's some things that I would definitely change. That's a great exercise.
Yeah. And, you just kind of identified something too, is that release all the emotions of shame and I'm no good. Well, there we go. Proves to me I'm no good. No, we are not, none of us are great at everything in the whole business sphere. We're not. Some of us are really good goal setter. I think you're a really good goal setter. I'm average. I think that, you've got to be good at encounters when you're conducting yourself with people. Some people are good at that. Some people are good at certain parts of that. So the idea of identifying where do you feel like you drop back and fall back a little bit is not a center of shame. It's then I can say to myself, I wonder why I do that. I wonder why I'm uncomfortable talking about money. I wonder why I'm uncomfortable sharing, kind of the uniqueness of our products. Do I sound like I'm too pitchy? I mean, if you just ask yourself the question, I wonder why that happens, the answers will come, and then you can start to remedy and fix and rebuild or reconstruct.
It's so funny you bring that up because I hadn't talked about the wonder why question for a long time. And I just talked about it last week. Randomly like this. I was in some coaching call and I don't know why it popped in my head and now you're talking about it again. So there's that. There's that.
There's that. There's that.
Don't you love the woo? No, seriously though, it's great. It's so good. I attribute Terry Daniel to give me that, a coach that we both worked with. And it just puts your brain in this open growth mode, non-shameful, non-blamey, accepting, curiosity, searching. It's a really, really, really good question to ask.
Yeah.
In all things, I wonder why. Yeah, I love it like that. I love the money thing. So you're in a sales call. Like, I wonder why I always get nervous when I, talk about money. I wonder why I always get defensive when they tell me that our priced too highly or whatever. And then search on that. And then once it's identified, you're like, that's why.
Yeah.
And then you can do something about it.
It could be something as far back as childhood too. I mean, we've all got scripts that we deal with today, but until you stop and ask the I wonder why question, those scripts don't become available, or the knowledge of those scripts don't become available. And then we realize, you know what? I've always had that from the time I was 19 years old. I've always felt like, money's kind of a bad time. Whatever you find, but finding it is 80% of the solving of it.
Yes. Yeah. And then there's the next part also, I think, is really important, you just said, which is you do need to work to solve it mechanically in some way. You can solve it with some therapy too to make yourself better. Let's use the money script. So we've got a hardwired thing from when we're young about money. We've devalue ourselves, so therefore we don't charge as much as we should. Okay, there it is. It's I devalue myself. I'm going to go to a therapist and work on seeing myself in higher value. That's one way to do it. That's great.
Yeah.
You can do some more mechanical things though too. It could be I'm going to print out a price sheet and I'm going to serve it up as a menu, and that's the price sheet. That's versus just talking about it, something like that. I mean,
it is because it's on the sheet. It's like a menu. This is what we offer, and this is the price of the steak. We're not negotiating. This is that's it. I think that's good.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people. I love the deep work also, and there's usually something you can find if you're in the searching mode that's that way. I had that. I had this is 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I had a potential speaking gig at an organization in Iowa, and I had someone who was working on my behalf as kind of an agent. But in this case, this group reached out to me directly. I remember exactly where I was sitting, where I was parked. I was in a parking lot here in Indianapolis, and the woman said, "What's your fee?" And I'm like,
this is the woman from
hiring. Yeah, the hiring person at the organization in Iowa. Yeah. I said, for a full day to come out to Iowa and do a keynote speech, $5,000. Now at the time, I was trying to get my keynote speaking fees to like 10 and 15, and I just said $5,000. She said, "Oh, great! The board's going to love this because we had $25,000 in the budget." And I'm telling you, not because it's me, she would have paid $25,000. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at me go.
They're going to love you because
discounting myself 100%. And so the lesson there for me was I have to, because I have that. I'll go talk to people for free. I just will. I'll do sales coaching. I just love it. So we do this basically for free. I mean,
basically.
Exactly.
Well, basically.
Love it.
Basically we do it.
No, basically. So, but you can put a mechanical thing in there.
Yeah.
Meaning now I can have someone else deal with all the pricing, so I don't have to worry about my own personal value getting caught.
That's right.
That's right. It's a mechanical fix.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's good.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So one of the topics I also wanted to talk about today was this idea, you are in front of a lot of people, and I am too, to probably definitely a limited extent, the numbers and pure numbers. And I was wondering what you see right now as we head into, kind of the planning for 2024. What do you see as the biggest challenge that sales organizations or sales professionals have in the pursuit of new business and the, just the growth, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like face-to-face skill stuff, like, oh, I gotta get to the higher level inside the company. It could be real tactical like that, or it could be bigger, like, no sales strategy, or we're terrible planners, or what do you see as one or two of the biggest issues right now?
I have one written down. I wrote down, as soon as you brought this up, I wrote this down. Poor sales leadership. Poor sales leadership. And the problem is, this question that you're posing, Bill, I believe is trying to be solved by sales leadership people who need some guidance and coaching and work. And that's part of the problem. And I see it all over the place.
Yeah. I
see sales leaders with a fear of holding people accountable to do things. And it's not their fault. I don't think we've set good structure up for sales leadership coaching.
I agree.
Training.
Totally agree. There's not much of it. I know you offer, I offer. There's not much of it.
There's not much at all. Mike Weinberg, good friend of the show in St. Louis, does a really good job with it. But past that, man, there's not much out there.
So do you think that the sales leader doesn't understand how to do these things, or do you think they have a plan, but it's an old plan and it doesn't work so much anymore, or a variety?
I would say first answer is mostly A than B. Because what happens is, where do sales leaders come from? Salespeople.
Sales team.
They do. I've not met a couple, but not very many sales leaders don't come from the sales team. Correct. Occasionally, right? CFO switches over to the CRO head. That happens occasionally. Yeah. Usually it's that. So then you've heard the cliche thing, like the great salespeople make bad managers and vice versa. There's all that stuff. But there is no how to. There is no how do I lead a team? How do I plan? How do I hold a group accountable? Yeah. And you see it all the time. You see, it's amazing to me. We just had a big group of sales leaders here in town for a big conference. And you talk about like basic stuff like CRM compliance. CRM compliance. There are 50 sales leaders in this room. Every one of them has a problem with CRM compliance. And I'm like, why? It's not the salespeople's problem. It's our problem because we let them. So I think sales leadership is the biggest cog in that wheel of teaching people how to prospect in a modern way. Think about the stuff that we do, that we teach. Like you talk all the time. You need to do a podcast. Everybody needs to do a podcast, right? You need to do videos. The sales leaders don't know how to do that.
No, they don't.
They're scared to death. They don't want to do that. They want to tell everyone else to do it, but they need to do it. The sales leader should be the first podcast.
I've got a sales leader who just came to that realization here a couple of weeks ago, because his team is struggling and they're not and he's trying to push them to build their brand. And they're in a business where it really matters if the salespeople build their brand, have videos, create content. Well, he's not doing it. And I said, you're not and he admitted he's very coachable. He said, that's right. I'm not doing it. So how can I explain to them and instruct them exactly how to do it if I've never had an experience of doing it? Absolutely. And you've got to lead by example is an old cliche, but when you're trying to change behavior and trying to reinvent your sales team, you have to be right there in the reinvention process. And it's ugly and it's messy and you're going to fail, just like you've told them, hey, it's okay if you fail. Well, you're going to fail too the first few times you try these things.
Yes. And there's a concept from a peer group that I used to belong to. Our coach gave us, they called speed of the leader, and the pack essentially goes as fast as the leader or the fastest person in the pack. So let's do the video thing. Not only does the sales leader need to be doing it, they need to be leading the charge. Yeah. Like doing it. Like, you guys can't keep up with me. Like, let's go. That draws the people up.
That's exactly right. That's so true. And then if the leader says, well, I've been working on this video and I know I started in February and I'm almost to the point where I can think about maybe setting my camera up. Not sure yet. Come on.
I'm having some tech issues, Bill. A couple tech issues. As I say that, as I'm like, hodgepodge my studio. However, I got it fixed, didn't I?
You did. And even if you hadn't gotten it fixed, I think you would have said, let's just do it. Let's go.
Let's go.
It's time. It's showtime, brother.
See, that's the difference. It's like, well, no, we didn't record today because Bryan was having some tech problems. I would have popped the AirPods in and you would have been pissed because of the audio quality's bad, but that's
but
okay.
I'm not.
But we got an episode done, right?
Right.
We got an episode.
So that's a good, so sales leadership, you think, is one of the biggest challenges, because a lot of it everything else runs down from there. Yeah.
You don't get that one fixed, then the thing's not as optimized as it could be.
It's interesting because mine is a cousin to that, which is, I don't think we spend enough time in the effort to realize our potential and our maximizing our talents and our skills and our experience and our success stories and failures and frameworks and all. I don't think we really maximize our potential as sales professionals. And guess what? Guess who's responsible for helping us do that? My sales manager, sales leader. Yeah. And I've always said that you sales leaders have one mission. It's one mission, and that is to make your people better. It's to improve the output of your people. If you improve all the output of your people through helping them to do things like we're talking about, then everything else takes care of itself. So it's the only mission you have. It's not to look good in front of people. It's not to run great sales meetings. It's to improve the capacity and the capability and the potential of each of your people. And if you do that, all else follows. And it makes it simple, because now I have to ask myself as a sales leader, when I'm looking at my calendar for the week, is anything on this calendar helping me maximize the potential of my people? Or is it all just, and recruit? I'm not saying that everything has to be that, but that's got to be the focal point. And I think that, so let's say you have a leader who's not doing that. It's still up to us. It's our life and it's our livelihood to say, where is my potential? I think that's the first question, is what's possible for me as a sales professional? And if you don't ask yourself those questions, then you end up doing the same thing you did in 2020 and 2021 and 22. And now we're going to plan for 24. We're going to be doing the same exact thing, hoping that there's a breakthrough. And there is no breakthrough if there's no maximization of potential that's somewhere on that sheet.
So good. I like you've heard people say, like, what are your biggest priorities in life? And people tend to say faith, family, and then maybe health, and
financial,
then work, financial, right? And then they audit their calendar for what they spend their time on. And it's usually 1 hour on Sunday for faith. And then if you're a Catholic like me, you're like, oh, Father Bob's great. His masses are only 45 minutes. They're awesome. In and out.
I'm in and out of there in an hour and 10.
In and out. We're done. Oh, it's great. Check it off the list. Like if that were true, wouldn't you see like 20 hours a week devoted to your faith? So true. I'm just throwing this out, and then I love this idea that sales leaders' number one job is to maximize the potential of the sales team individually, meaning as individuals. Look on your calendar. It's awesome. And look on your calendar and audit and say, how much time is devoted to that? I bet you're going to find almost zero. Right now. It's a great takeaway for a sales leader.
Yeah. And for sales professionals listening, because I know that's probably 70% of our audience, is you have to also be the, we keep hearing this, you only live once, I only got one life to live. I'm gonna make it count. And then I ask, well, how many hours a week do you spend in self-development, in self-care? And I don't mean like massage therapy, although that might be part of it. Fitness could be part of it, but mental care, emotional care. How much time do you spend reading, listening to podcasts? I mean, our listeners obviously spend at least 18 minutes a week listening to us. Right. That's part of it. But there's a lot of hours in the week. And if you say, I've only got one life to live, and I think I have another level of potential, how are you investing those hours to help you get there? And most people don't. No. Most people don't. I'm not insinuating that our listeners don't, but generally you find most people spend very little time working on the brand, the you.
Yeah.
And
so true.
And so we lie to ourselves, say, well, we're not you hear this a lot in the media. People aren't achieving where they want to be, and people are being laid off. Okay, being laid off. What are you doing for the next chapter? And a lot of people, some people are doing something, but most people aren't. So I would ask yourself the question as you listen to this today is, what are you doing to work on yourself? And it's probably not enough. It's probably not enough.
And I think take an inventory first just to audit your calendar and audit your behaviors and audit the stuff that you're doing. Say, am I doing anything at all?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you need to go spend $40,000 on a personal coach.
No.
Might, but it could be the littlest thing. And think about what's available to me. My coach is so good at this. He's like, people are so bad at asking for help. Just ask for help. Just ask people like, hey, can we grab coffee? I want to ask you something about this, or I want to get your perspective or take, or see if you're open to hold me accountable. I don't know. People are so helpful if you ask them.
Absolutely. Even people who would normally charge, like I've answered a lot of questions on LinkedIn. And sometimes if it goes back and forth too much, I might say, this is something I would charge a fee for. And sometimes they say, okay, great, I'll pay it. Or sometimes they say no. But the first effort is usually free. I mean, I'm not, because I enjoy, like you said, I enjoy helping people to realize this potential. But anyway, good topic today. If you have any questions on it or any comments, go to advancedsellingpodcast.com/LinkedIn. Make sure you're a member of the group. If you are, you can comment on the show. And then we'd like to hear anything that you heard from this that maybe is some realization and made you aware of something that you're maybe missing.
Love it. All right.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.